today we're going to be talking about the open world aspect of each Batman game and just kind of the evolution of all of them, starting with Batman and Robin in 1998, originally on the PlayStation and is based off the movie. This is kind of the first big open world that we get to see with any of these games, and I think the thing that surprised me the most about this game is that you can actually drive the Batmobile. And actually, from the looks of the gameplay, it looks like it drives fairly smooth for being a game on the PlayStation 1 in 1998. Now, my only pet peeves are obviously visually. It's not very stunning. It has the same 4 buildings and 4 signs, and the player movement and fighting style is just really stiff. I mean, just take a look at this. And also a big issue is the whole area doesn't even feel alive. There's no NPCs walking the streets except for some bad guys here and there. And also, while fighting people, there's just no dialogue between the villains or the heroes. But I still think this game was a big step in the right direction for that open world aspect that we know and love. Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker was released on the PlayStation 1 in 2000. And it is based off the animated series. I'd say that the fighting is way smoother and also the player movement as well, but once we start to get to the free roam aspect, it just really lacks, especially since it's such a level-based game where you don't really get to choose where you go. It kind of has a roadmap for you. Not to mention, the cutscenes are just honestly horrendous. Like, I'm sorry if you actually like this game, but how the fuck? I did not sit here to read a whole goddamn novel. I'd say, all in all, it really just took a huge step back from the last one. Batman Vengeance was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2001. I will say it was visually smoother than the last 2 games. They also added a really cool grapple and glide mechanic that really helped you traverse the world, which was also way bigger and more dynamic than the first game. Adding rooftops and climbable buildings was really just a step in the right direction. They also fixed the fighting and made it 10 times better in my opinion, and they also added actual cutscenes. And I'm pretty sure they used most of the same voices from the old cartoon. Now, my only complaint about this game would have to be the player models during the cutscenes. They look very blurry in some parts or unrendered, and probably the same thing for the buildings too. Even while just running around, the buildings look very detextured and just flat, almost like a very early access game. Batman Dark Tomorrow was released on the Xbox original in 2003. They fixed pretty much everything where it lacked in the last game. They added a dynamic weather feature, better texturings, they added more traversal through the map, and even fixed some of the cutscenes as well. Now, they did manage to break the grapple mechanic a little bit, trying to make it seem more like a Spider-Man sort of web swing, but it didn't really work very well and looks really sloppy. And sadly, they removed the glide mechanic as well, and another issue is that free roam isn't as crazy. It's very level based, but like I said, the levels are more dynamic with the climbing around aspect as well. Batman Rise of Sensu was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2003. They added a bit more texture to the game and really just improved from the first one, even going as far as to improve the fighting and made it a little bit more solid with the hits. But where they lacked from the first game was making it way too level based. And yes, by the first game I mean Batman Vengeance. That was the part 1 of this, and that one had way more open world, where this one is very, very level based. Batman Begins was released on the PlayStation 2 in 2005 and is based off the movie Batman Begins. They added a way better texture model to the game and made the world way more dynamic, adding props, water, and fog, and they fixed the fighting way better with much smoother movement down to the character and the fighting as well. Now, one thing yet again is the open world isn't too great. It's very mission and level based, but I will give it props for making really stunning looking missions. Lego Batman the video game, released on the Xbox 360 in 2008. I mean, do I really have to say any more? I mean, if you didn't play this game, then you ain't no Giga Chad, my guy.
The elevator appears to have been powered down. You're going to be okay here.
Now, for one of my favorite games on this list, Batman Arkham Asylum for the Xbox 360, 2009 release. Obviously, let's get this straight out the way. Visually, this game is 1,000 times better than anything we've seen so far. The levels are just so unique and full of life. 100% has the best fighting mechanics so far, but the open world is very shut, leaving you really just to have to roam the Arkham Asylum, which isn't too bad though, and still has a lot of side quests. This game was just an insane step up from what we had last, so props to them, man.
I'm touched.
Now, Batman Arkham City on the Xbox 360 in 2010, obviously just slightly better visuals than the last installment. Way more free roam and side quests, which I loved. It really was just a great example of how to slowly give your players more and more as the games continue. The world design for this game was just incredible. And even though it was very dark and not very lively, that was kind of the point, and it was played very well. They also slightly improved some of the fighting, and definitely the best open world so far. Now, also another one of my favorites on this list, LEGO Batman DC Superheroes, released on the Xbox 360 in 2012. I mean, come on, you can't go wrong with a LEGO game, especially one with very unique levels like this, and an amazing free roam system, and just a good selection of characters as well. I mean, what else do you want me to say? I'm not going to complain about one thing in this game, because there ain't nothing to complain about. But on to Batman Arkham Origins on the Xbox 360, 2013. The open world was way bigger than the other one, and it also visually looks way better too, adding smoother movement and more gadgets. I mean, not a whole lot to complain about here again. I mean, it's just a step up from the last game, improving on the things that needed improved and not ruining the things that were already good, and adding a little bit more loot to the mix. LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham 2014 on the Xbox One. Now, you know me and my LEGO games, but the levels were nothing crazy on this one, but the free roam and the cast of characters were probably the best. The uniqueness of like each character really stood out, and how their abilities were shown in LEGO style. And it was also really interesting to see these last two LEGO games have such a big free roam aspect to them, with a bunch of side quests as well. Now here we go with the hot tamale to finish it off, is Batman Arkham Knight for the Xbox One in 2015. Now, of course, this game was visually insane. It's probably one of the best open world games of all time. It has insanely good side missions, and the fighting yet again was fixed to perfection, and all the characters in the game were great as well. They introduced driving for the first time in a very long time, and it was done pretty much flawlessly as well. This is definitely one of my favorite games to date. The only thing I have to complain about is all these Batman games. The world looks like it's been lived in, but there is no one around other than the bad guys. And I know that's because of the story, but it would be nice to have an event where you're saving citizens from bad guys instead of just beating the shit out of everyone you see because only bad guys are left in the city. But still, that doesn't take away from the fun of just sitting down and playing the whole Arkham trilogy and the old games as well. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorites, and if you guys did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. I upload every day comic shorts from things such as Marvel, DC, Star Wars, everything you could ever think of. But yeah, like I said, which one's your favorite? Leave it in the comments below.